Now we're going to go to the topic of artificial intelligence. We'll talk a little bit about what it is, and then we're going to deep dive into vertical AI and why it's important for business. Before we do that, every time I talk about artificial intelligence, there's a little slide that becomes fundamental, important, and in my view, non-negotiable, which is how we as businesses always need to think about the customer experience principles of artificial intelligence and data. What are those principles? The trust and transparency that needs to be present in our interactions, the empathy and respect, the utility that any data that we are gathering consensually, we need to be adding value in return. Fairness and inclusivity, ensure that there's no biases in our algorithms, and accountability as businesses being accountable for what we are doing. When we talk about AI, these days it's all about deep learning. What is deep learning? The ability to draw meaningful inferences for large volumes of data sets. Deep learning is a subset of machine learning and artificial intelligence, and it's been around for many, many years, but only now is becoming useful, because there's two components that we're missing that are now present. What are they? Data. All of our digital transformations, we are capturing data, and just the amount of data that we are capturing, we are going from 4.4 trillion gigabytes in 2013 to 44 trillion in 2020. Pretty spectacular. And what you are seeing is that deep learning, the more data you feed it, the better it is. While other types of machine learning, just after a while, they just plateau. The second ingredient is computational power. An iPhone 5S has 1,300 times more processing power than the computer that landed Apollo 11 on the moon. Pretty spectacular, huh? We talk about AI, and it all sounds like magic. And I still love this quote from Arthur C. Clarke that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. But I also love this quote a lot. This is a lady that is an expert in the AI field. And what she's saying is that the biggest predictor of success, of adoption of AI, is when the C-suite has advanced math degrees, because these folks know that it isn't magic, it's just hard maths, right? And some of us come from a maths degree, some of others come from a creative degree. Actually, we should be able to unpack machine learning and AI in a way that we all as executives understand, because if we are using this technology, we need to understand it to do it justice and to ensure that we keep to those principles that I was talking about. So let's talk about those and unpack it. There's a few areas that AI is exploring. Supervised learning, transfer learning, unsupervised learning, reinforcement learning. Actually, most of the business value that we are getting out of AI right now is from an area called supervised learning, okay? So let's understand what that is. It's when AI answers a question, we feed AI with a bunch of categorized labeled data, and we get a probability. So what's important to understand here is with the hard-coded software, you get an answer and it's yes or no, it's 100% correct, depending on who's coding, but it is. With AI, you get the probability. So, an example of that, we ask a question, is it me, is it Inês, and we feed my photo, you get a probability. 84%, yeah, that's probably Inês. We ask a question, will this applicant pay a loan? We feed it a loan application, and you get a probability. You can imagine that this use case can create incredible value for an insurance company, and it is right now producing tremendous value. Online advertising, will the target audience click on the ad? You feed it an ad, you feed it the target audience, and you get a probability back. So, very important. The accuracy is a huge competitive advantage. You can see that in two ways. Probabilities here can drive tremendous business value, But also, it's that accuracy that provides the high relevance, just-in-time, hyper-convenience that you are seeing in a lot of customer experiences. So customer adopting your experiences when you use AI to personalize can really make a difference in your business. So what is this brain-like model that is providing these probabilities? What it does is it has weights and probabilities associated with each one of the categories. Let's unpack that. To train an AI, we feed it a bunch of data that is categorized or labeled. An example here, we fed a bunch of photos that are labeled Inês. What happens, the model, the AI, starts looking at the features of those photos and adds probabilities. Because I go to a lot of Halloween parties, I have confused the AI significantly. So at the moment, it's thinking, I may have white hair, I may have brown hair, and there's probabilities associated with it. How do these things learn when it's supervised learning? Pretty simple. So let's go through an example. There's a photo of me on Facebook. Facebook thinks it's me, gives it a probability of 84%. Someone, a friend of mine, tags that photo, and suddenly we know it's me. What happens? Facebook AI adjusts the probabilities of the characteristics and learns from the experience. We have what we are calling supervised learning, validated learning. So let's talk about this. The value of code is different from the value of data. But what is the value of a model where code improves based on that data? Significant value to your business. It's ever evolving, it's ever learning with every single interaction. Unsupervised learning, what is it? Well, it's when the AI learns with no human intervention whatsoever. You don't even have categorized data. For example, you point the AI, watches YouTube, and learns from that experience. It plays games, and it learns from that experience, or it plays other AIs or different versions of the AI, and it's learning from that experience. Which leaves us with some interesting questions, which is what happens when it learns more than we know, and what happens when it cannot explain itself anymore. Michael Stewart, the CEO of Lucid AI, give us some reassurance. He basically says that right now AI uses at best half a brain. It's very good at categorizing. It's very good at segmenting, understanding different categories. But when it comes to the whys and the so whats, it's not so good. When it comes to symbolic understanding, purpose and meaning, we are just so far away from science fiction. Having said that, what happens next? It's going to really depend on the types of movies you watch on TV. We don't know. Hopefully, the outcome won't be this one. When it comes to AI, strategy matters a lot. Let's go back to business and the business of AI. There's quite a lot of business value that is projected to come out of it, 3.9 trillion by 2020. And in terms of use cases, there's so many use cases. It's incredible the opportunities that we have for businesses. And we could go through each one of the verticals and really unpack this. If you have to focus on a few things right now, focus on ecosystem participation and discoverability. If these digital assistants are here to stay, how are you adding value to them? How are you adding value to that ecosystem and the people that are engaging with it? The founder of Siri talks about what's about to happen, where every single brand is starting to add value to these assistants. We are going to see a big shift. Right now, assistants at best are focusing on tasks. Create a meeting in my calendar. Soon, they are going to start focusing on goals and objectives. Help me prepare for my wedding. It's a big change. And it's going to be enabled by every single brand that is going to start being connected in this ecosystem. The basics, the absolute basics. If you're not looking at voice search right now, if you're not protecting your discoverability, given that with voice, at best you get 5 options, and in most cases just 1, it's time to look at that, right? Because by 50% of people in industrialized nations who interact with computers will use voice by 2021. And right at the back, Phil, raise your hand. We have an expert in the house. If you want to unpack that, Phil Cross can help you at the end of the session. Now, when it comes to the future of AI, particularly these big horizontal AI platforms, there's a few players that are completely dominating the space. These companies, because of the economies of scale, it's incredibly difficult to compete, right? They are doing amazing things, and the horizontal play, the assistant, the horizontal AI, it's theirs. But they are also enabling and creating the building blocks, the foundations, so that we can engage in AI right now. Right? If you look at AWS, for example, or Google or IBM, these are there for us to play, to experiment, and to build upon. Each one of these layers is important. When you use solutions, the only thing you should need to think about is how might you protect data and expertise that is core to your business, because remember, these algorithms learn. So if you are using facial recognition, that's something that is there, it's institutionalized. But if you start sharing data that is core to your business and the algorithm is not yours, you need to consider the implications of that, okay? If you're interested in unpacking some of these layers and the opportunities and possibilities for you, we have Andrew Bartos, our head of technology for our group, who will be able to help you out, and also our IBM partners. Now, let's talk about your competitive advantage, what really matters to you, your domain knowledge. Data and domain expertise are absolutely defensible barriers to business. And to gain advantage, you can use a vertical AI strategy. What you need to ask yourself is, what questions can you answer that no one else can? What questions can you answer to your customers that no other business can? And if you have the answer to this question, you should be considering using vertical AI strategy. And for how long are you able to defend that position? Another, is it just a year? Is it 2? Is it 5? In this case of vertical AI, what we're calling the great verticalization, there's a formula to it. So let's unpack some of the steps to make this formula successful. 1, data is the opportunity and the challenge. It's hard to find good data to acquire. We need to ensure that we are maintaining trust and authenticity and transparency. And I'm sorry for all my nerd gifts. I just can't help myself. You then, once you have the data, you have to clean it and polish it and normalize it. And the people that are really good at have a multi-year strategy of data acquisition because they know that they are working themselves to a defensible business. Domain experts help a lot, so being able to codify what the experts know and do is incredibly important. But if you actually have clean, good data, AIs today are able to unpack the rules just by looking at data. And experience matters a lot. We see so many businesses create these assistants and bots. There's bots for everything. Many of them no one uses. Why? Because that experience matters. That connected ecosystem is incredibly important, right? Humans still matter. We are just in the beginning of this understanding AI. A lot of these algorithms are opaque and complex, and we shouldn't assume we know everything. We should not, at this stage, make decisions for people. We need to really unpack and understand how we are using these solutions. But I also want to leave you with some data that, again, was mentioned several times at South by Southwest, that a lot of AI companies are discovering that users are not interested in information. They want to be told what to do. It's a really interesting tension between these two worlds of being responsible and accountable and the usability and the hyper-convenience that users want to have in the world. Over the last 15 years, I've been engaging in a lot of digital transformation engagements, helping companies with digital transformation. And we all know that as we walk into these environments to talk about digital transformation, one of the first things that comes, that is raised is we need a single customer view. We need a unified warehouse. And these things take time. Usually there's some kind of platform that goes with it, a CRM, etc. And that's perfectly fine and an important part of the journey. But let's not wait until it's done to engage with data scientists, to think about AI, because as we bring this data together and look at it, if we have the right people in the business, they will guide us in terms of the opportunities that you may have in that space. So absolutely, single customer view is important. Please don't wait 3 years until that's done to engage in artificial intelligence. So defensibility. A vertical AI strategy is defensible. If you are building full stack products, if you have the subject matter expertise, if you have the data, and if you are powering it with AI. As I was building this presentation, I was watching this fight, this debate between two very smart business leaders in the world. Warren Buffett talks a lot about investing in moats, investing in business that have great defensible competitive advantages. And of course, he's very, very right. What Elon Musk was saying is, if you sit on your laurels and if you do not invest in innovation, at some point in time, you're going to be disrupted. So moats are great. Let's invest in moats, but ensure that innovation is there in the DNA of your organization, that you keep finding other opportunities, other products and services. Organizational design matters, transformation matters. If this is a topic that interests you, I'm here. Let's have a drink after this talk, and I'm happy to speak to you about it. And the key takeaway when it comes to AI is trial now. Take the first steps. It takes a while to get it right, but it's absolutely the thing to do right now is to start experimenting with it.